Well, hello everyone, and welcome to what is really a bit of a 20-minute hangout, because although you're about to see a race, this is not any particular big event, and this is definitely not a detailed, well-produced video like I'd normally aim to put out on this channel. This is really an opportunity for me to just show you something I did last week, and to have a bit of a chat to you about some upcoming things. So I hope you enjoy the racing that's going on. As you'll have seen, we've started in third position. This is a Sodi race at Daytona Milton Keynes, and as I mentioned, it's not a particular event, but it does have some pretty fast drivers involved. So there's some drivers who have won quite a few races in the field here, and there's a lot of people wearing their own kit, so that's the kind of level we're at. I don't remember exactly how many karts there were. It was only Sodis. You can see there's no D-Maxes around us on track right now. And as I'm doing some driver coaching for a driver who's going to be competing at this track in these kind of karts over the next few months, this is a good opportunity for me to just get used to the track in this type of kart in these kind of conditions, which, as you can see, are kind of greasy and slippery. Now, on the thumbnail, you will have seen it showed basically icy conditions, and really that is how it felt out here. Some of the track was dry, like you're seeing right now, so this part of the asphalt is obviously dry, but other parts, effectively the frost has melted where Daytona have put salt down on the track, and that's turned it into damp patches. And so there you can see into the hairpin on the first lap, absolutely no grip, and there are various sections which are a bit like that on the track. Now, all of our tyres are stone cold, and they do get a bit better, but not massively better through the race. Mainly what you'll see developing is my understanding of how to drive the track and where the grip is. So, into the first chicane here, the driest section was definitely inside, so you had to underdrive the kart into there and going quite narrow. And this hairpin at turn 4, pretty dry, but it's the next corner that's causing the most problems, as you're about to see. So we're going to go around the outside on this lap, and there's a couple of different options in your technique. You can see behind me there, right at the edge of the track, there is some dry asphalt. You can only put the outside tyres on it though, because it's not very wide dry patch. We're going to try that differently on subsequent laps, but you can see the driver behind me is sticking pretty close, so I've not managed to escape at all at this point. And to this hairpin here, I'm again trying to stay tight, because if you go all the way wide, it gets slippery and the kart goes wider and wider and wider. You'll see me learn how to make the best compromise into there as the race goes on. And this bottom section, the hairpin down the bottom here, just completely icy the whole time. I couldn't get that corner to work at all, and you're going to see some rear camera shots where the kart behind really catches me down into that corner. You can see he's closing in on me now. I think he was slightly lighter. In fact, I think he was quite a lot lighter, so some of that performance difference down the straight comes from that weight difference, but he's also slightly better than me into this hairpin, one of the last corners on the track. So later on you're going to see him really close up on me into there. I was probably being a bit too careful on the brakes. So on the inside of the final corner, that concrete rough section is always pretty good in these kind of conditions, provided it's just about dry enough, and it is. So into turn 1, it's a narrow normal line. Into turn 2 here, even with these yellow flags and this random D-Max that seems to be being tested out on track, it's kind of a normal line but with an early turn in to make the best of the dry track. Normal kind of line into that hairpin at turn 4, but this is where we're not quite sure yet. So I went round the outside last time. This time I go for a really tight line, accepting I'm going to understeer wide, and look at the gap it gave us to the kart behind. Suddenly we've got a huge gap to P2 because he took the outside line like we did on the previous lap. Now down into this turn, which is always tricky, I'm trying to get close to the inside because that seems to be where it's driest. You saw I completely missed the apex on that lap, and now we've nailed that corner much better. You see it's wetter on the right, drier on the left. You can't go fully to the left, otherwise you'd really have to compromise your exit and slow right down, but we try and go halfway. So we go in a bit slower than normal, but we get a better exit than we would do if we ran out onto the damp patch. And once again, the bottom hairpin before the long straight, it's all about carrying as much speed as you can without running deep and delaying your throttle input onto the main straight here. And into this fast left-hander here before the final hairpin, it's really dry, but because it's so cold, the tyres just don't seem to stick. I'm not used to these Sodi karts, but look how much time I lost in the braking zone for that one corner alone, so I'm clearly not on it into there just yet. Now, out onto the start line again, there's a yellow flag here quite often. People seem to crash quite a lot of the time through turn 1 and out into turn 2, so we'll back off slightly, raise a hand, lift off more than normal. If we barreled into there too fast, you'd see we clearly understeer into that kart that was stationary, and now we're back on it again. I think we've maintained the gap to the kart behind. Now, one thing I was learning in this kart, and I've really noticed it in the qualifying, you saw we only qualified 3rd, so I wasn't really on top of it in qualifying at all. and again, they're taking a narrow line into that very, very slippery, icy corner. Yeah, one thing I learned with these karts is they have very, very little usable steering angle. So you'll see the wheel never gets turned very far. That's really the maximum through there that we get to. Because even at that angle, you're straight into understeer. Now, these Sodi rental karts, I've seen the bare chassis, I've seen them without all the bodywork on. They've got barely any caster whatsoever. And that means the angle that the front wheels are at, in terms of how much they lean backwards and therefore how much front bite they get as you apply extra steering lock, it's just not there. And that's because you want rental karts to have light steering for members of the public, because karts typically have heavy steering. People complain, and as I'm talking about this, you see that kart behind me getting a great run on me down the main straight. Yeah, so Sodi karts and lots of rental karts have very little caster, so they have light steering, but that then takes away front end bite. And that means you can't afford to just crank on extra steering lock and hope it's going to do something. These karts really, really do not like to turn in, especially when it's freezing cold. So most of the work I'm doing in most of the corners is just trying to coax the nose towards the apexes. And look, again there you see massive understeer. We're going to have to choose which way we go around this driver here. We tried to go left, but he kind of just dawdled halfway on the racing line and just basically stayed in our way. Still in the way now, absolutely oblivious to what's going on. Now there's a yellow flag, so we can't overtake him, and we're past the incident point now, and away we go. I've got my hand up because I'm basically saying I don't want to overtake this guy in a yellow flag zone, but he's gone right the way around the outside and basically stopped. And again, I've nearly lost the lead there. Guy in P2 squeezing up my inside, but finally I hit the apex into that downhill right-hander. We're now coming up to some lap traffic, so we're very shortly into the race. We haven't been running very long, and we are now beginning to lap the guys right at the back. So quite a few drivers in this race. You saw on the grid at the beginning, the karts went all the way back from the start line, right the way round the final corner, so quite a few karts there. Look at the lack of grip into that bottom corner. So yeah, essentially the kart in P2 is very, very close to me now. That is the D-Max being tested, so that kart is not in the race. I did still try and pick up a tow from him though. Confused me a bit because I didn't think there were any D-Maxes in this race, and then I kind of understood that it was a Daytona track official. So we're basically in a 2-kart race, although the rest of the fast guys near the front are not that far behind. I'm struggling to pull away. But it's the guy in P2 who is definitely causing us the most problem, and he's got some yellow highlights on his kit. You can tell that that's him when I look behind, and you see him with the little yellow flashes. So yeah, we've basically lost some of the gap we built up. We'll try and build it back up again. I'm not really thinking about him too much because I just want to get better at driving the track, because if I'm faster, he'll struggle to catch up with me or stay with me. So let's see, which side do we decide to go this time? It's narrow again. I've kind of decided at this point in the race, I think taking a very short line into that tight, long right-hander and accepting the fact it's going to understeer, but I'm travelling so much of a shorter distance, it's worth it. That's kind of what I've decided on. But you will see in a lap or two's time, I actually try the outside again, just to make sure I'm not being silly and just to make sure there's not a better technique. And you're going to see exactly what the difference is, because P2 will be right with us when it happens. So again, down into the bottom corner, just gentle opposite lock, really trying to guide it towards the apex, but it's impossible. I cannot get it to that concrete apex unless I almost stop the car. And even at the speed I carried then, look how close P2 is. Essentially just driving alongside me down the straight. That's the speed differential I'm trying to deal with here. And he's actually ahead going into this fast left-hander. That's a massive amount of understeer from me clattering into his side, but thankfully he didn't spin. We both got through and we carry on. So, you know, if he'd been taken out then or spun around, I'd fully expect a penalty and it probably would have been justified. But I'm not intending to clip him. We just had absolutely no front grip. So another yellow flag as we go through turn 1. We back off slightly, flashing lights into turn 2. We can see there's a marshal stood there somewhere, but just pushing the tyres back into place, so it's not a kart on track this time. Still got P2 following us. He's still really, really close. And I'm now hopefully going to do this next corner, which we've been through several times now, a little bit better. Let's go straight to the inside once again, but this time there's a kart right where I want to understeer into, so we have to back off probably a little bit more than I'd have wanted to. That's going to have arrested our speed slightly. He's going to sit on the inside there, exactly where I want to turn in. Thankfully, he gets out of the way just in time, though. And we managed to slip through in the downhill long right-hander. We're still in the lead, but the fight isn't over yet, though. There's quite a lot more battling left to go, and quite a lot more learning for me to go. Whilst it's quiet for the moment, though, and we're not in any particular fight, let's just talk about some other things happening on the channel soon. So this year, we've got the 100cc, so the 100 UK category owner karting that I'm doing with my own bright purple kart. you will have seen in some of the other videos, so looking forward to that. First race for us in that is in April, so a little bit of a time until we're actually out in that kart. So next thing really, next major karting video is going to be our channel members race, which is coming up at the beginning of next month. So around 20 channel members, the first 20 I guess to get back in touch with me, are going to be signed up for that. We've already got quite a packed entry list. You do have time to get on that list though if you are a channel member, or if you sign up today, even at the lowest tier, that $2.99 tier, you can still join that race for free. Now I'll just skip back to what's going on here. There's a kart going very, very slowly at the end of a yellow flag zone. I'm just not quite sure what's going on there. But back to our kart race at South Coast Karting. Come and join us. Just come and join the Discord. I'll put a link in the description of this video, and hopefully if you hear this soon enough, you'll get on board with that and come and win a trophy. It's going to be great fun. Loads of other YouTubers going to be down there. So that's one of the other things happening. Maybe we should get back to the action just here. We've got the kart in P2 closing us down again. He's not given up yet, and I'm certainly not driving the track perfectly yet. I'm just trying to deal with this understeer, exit this corner without going too wide onto the really damp section. I'm fully aware he's there. I can feel him beginning to breathe down my neck, and I know I've been a bit rubbish into this corner. You seem quite inconsistent. Didn't get to the curb on the inside. I'm just kind of four-wheel sliding all the way through there. I'm keeping an eye out. Is he close? He's certainly close enough to start getting a run down the straight here. I'm trying to move out of his way so he doesn't get a massive slipstream, but he's still there somewhere. So here he comes, closing us down. He's within about one kart length at the end of the straight. We know I've not been great into this corner so far. He's closed on the brakes a few times, so I need to be braver into there. Not quite sure how close he is now, though. Hopefully not close enough to take a lunge into the final corner. And I'd say we're over halfway through the race now. It's only a 20-minute race, so we're about 11 and a half minutes in. So we're kind of looking good as long as I don't make any mistakes at this point. But even this far into the race, I'm not completely convinced that I've got the next couple of corners nailed in terms of where I want to position the car. So as we look into the next corner here, do I try something different on this lap? I've been going narrow every time, and yeah, this time I'm going to try the outside line. Let's just see, is it any good? And instead of pulling away from the kart that's in P2, he overtakes us easily by taking my other line. And I think that really has proven it to me. By this point, I'm thinking, yeah, there's no question. The early tight line where you get close to the inside is simply too fast for the outside line to kind of be any better. So that's it, that's proven it. I don't think we go back to trying the outside line again, and I've managed to pull that gap back through a good exit to the hairpin there before this section. And finally I hit the curb on the inside there and carry some decent speed through this bottom corner. And I'm now going to try and put some distance between me and P2 by using the back markers to my advantage. And what I mean by that is getting in front of them quicker than the kart in second place does, so he then has to negotiate them in the twisty parts. I want to get past in easy sections where it doesn't compromise me at all, and then hope that he hits them in more difficult sections, and obviously I mean catches them up, not physically hits. There's going to be a bit more traffic coming up soon, and there's quite a few karts in a bunch, and that really helps me out. So now I think we're up to speed. Now I think we're starting to pump in our faster laps. I know what I'm doing at this point. I'm a bit more confident that we've got tyre temperature. Obviously the track is very, very gradually drying out. Not significantly, it's not like it's now dry and it was soaking at the start. But every lap, without any additional rain, it's going to be getting slightly better. And as you can see there, I'm back to my tight and then running wide onto the dry section line. Definitely confirmed to myself that's better. And we're going to just not second guess ourselves anymore. I'm going to just go with what I think is the best way to drive and push. But trying to be accurate all the time. So I wasn't very accurate in that downhill right, but reasonably good there. That's now the line I want. You see how we're getting a nice straight exit, and when the rear tyres are trying to scrabble for grip as we're applying the power, we're on a dryish bit. Down here again, actually getting to the curb on the inside, trying to carry good speed here. I've given up on that inside curb. I know I'm never going to make it. I'm just going to try and get as close as I can, and obviously tucking down, trying to get out of the air there, trying to cause as little drag as possible. I'm clearly pushing hard now, and I want to make hay. I want to get away from this guy behind. You know, it's not the end of the world if we don't win this race. It's not a particularly big event. There are trophies, but I still want to win. So here we go. Here's that traffic I was talking about. Haven't really lost out from that one. This kart was right on the apex, doing about 2 miles per hour. Not quite sure what that was all about. So I definitely lost some time there. And now look at this one. I go around the outside, and they just don't really turn. They just run out to where I am. That was probably the hairiest moment of the race for me. I was holding my breath, hoping that he wouldn't push me out into the very wet section and cause me to go into the wall. But I know that my competitor behind is now having to overtake all these karts, and hopefully in more difficult sections. Let's go tight again. Even though he's kind of in the middle, we've got space to get through to our desired line. I'm used to this line now. You know, I really, really know that's the best way, and I'm comfortable with what the kart's going to do. I'm not going to outbrake myself. So let's just try and be accurate again. Like I said, down through this bottom corner, yeah, we got to the curb that time. That's much more like it. And I'm really just calibrating my brain to deal with this very, very different kind of kart. So the last karts you saw me drive here at the Race of Champions were D-Max. Now, they are rental karts, but they're much more performance-based rental karts than these are. So not just are they more powerful, they've also got much better steering geometry. They feel more like a racing kart. They're obviously still quite a big step away from a full race kart, and they're a lot heavier. The D-Max weight was something like 216 kilograms with the driver, and my race kart is more like 145 or 150 kilos. So there's a whole extra adult human weight on something that's very, very small difference. But this kart, this Sodi, really does feel like a step away from an owner kart. So it's that dead feeling front end, and obviously a much clearer yellow flag here. Someone stood at the apex of turn 1. I back off considerably more, hand off the wheel, really showing I've acknowledged it. Yeah, so trying to get my head around this kart was quite interesting because I don't often drive karts like this. I've driven indoor karts in the British Indoor Kart Championship qualifiers around 6 months ago or something like that, but even they feel more positive on the front end than this Sodi, in these conditions at the very least. But even in full dry conditions, I think these do feel pretty understeery. And that makes sense because you don't want members of the public spinning too easily too often. You want the front end to feel a bit neutral, a little bit numb, and that's exactly what is happening here. One thing I really like about these karts is the shape of the steering wheel. So this very rectangular, squared off steering wheel, it just goes some way to preventing the general public from holding the wheel in the wrong place. Obviously you can see where my hands are there. Where the hand grips are, that's where you're intended to put your hands. It means you've got a balanced steering position. You've got your hands directly opposite one another. The weight is on equal parts of the wheel. You know where your steering is at any given point. You know which way the front wheels are pointed, and you're not having to guess or kind of reposition your hands at any point. They stay fixed there. You move your hands to the angle that you want the wheels to go to. But it's amazing how, with a circular steering wheel, non-experienced drivers will just hold the steering wheel in random positions. I've said this many times, but it's a bit like holding a tennis racket around the edge of the strings instead of on the handle itself. It just, you can hit the ball, but it's not going to be very good. It's similar to holding the steering wheel in the wrong place. So anyway, there we go. Rant over. I like the steering wheels, is what I'm trying to say. Another thing you can see with this kind of rental car is there's a lot of protection for the driver compared to a race car. You have such a lot of plastic around you, and it's a wonder that they still don't break when they hit the barriers, because people hit the walls pretty hard, especially on a track like this with very high speeds for a rental kart track. But obviously the plastics around the kart do an excellent job. So a little luxury you have when the conditions are like this, you can get it wrong and not be completely out of the race. So some slow traffic here. I'm trying to decide what to do. I do eventually slip up the inside of this kart, but kind of because I have to, because he does his own little spin as he's turning into the corner and slows down quite early. Then we get a run on this yellow kart, so we're starting to really get through the field. I think we lapped up to 10th position, so we came through quite a lot of the back markers in this race. And in a more crucial moment, I would have gone down the inside of that kart there, but I thought discretion was the better part of valour, decided not to risk getting a penalty for taking out someone that's well down the field, especially because it's very, very wet on the inside. I think the board here is telling us there's not long left to go. There's certainly not many laps left of this race, so we're going to just keep trying to move forward, but we've now got a comfortable gap to P2. So I'm certainly not worried about losing the race unless I make some kind of horrendous error. It's still just about maximising the speed we carry through each of these corners and just trying to learn as much as possible so I can pass on this information to the driver that I'm coaching on this circuit during the year. And I think I've got a pretty good idea of where I think you should place one of these karts in these exact conditions. But the conditions are never going to be exactly the same as this again, and probably unlikely to be icy, certainly, as the year goes on. So good to have an idea of where the grip is, but really the information I can give from this session is going to be quite limited to if it's like this. If it's any wetter or any drier, the lines we take are going to change. The main thing through that bottom corner, as that yellow kart demonstrated, is extra speed on the way in, absolutely ruins the following straight. So it's a really good example of slow in, fast out. You don't always want to go slow in, fast out in various corners. If there's a very short straight following the corner, then fast in might be the best compromise, but that does not have a short straight following it. That is a very, very long straight, so important to be neat and tidy at the apex. So again, close to the wall, using the concrete on the inside, and we come across the line and there's the checkered flag. So that's the end of the race. We have won relatively comfortably in the end, but good fun, learning a different car, getting used to a different kind of driving. A really enjoyable event. So whilst we're on our in-lap, just a final couple of things. We have a merch store. If you haven't seen it already yet and you want to get some karting related merch, check that out. We've got channel memberships if you want to get early access to videos like this one, because channel members will have seen this 2 days before the public. Then check out our channel memberships. They range from £2.99, and in really rare occasions, like coming up in February, as I mentioned before, you get access to cool events. Free karting. The channel members are coming karting at a brilliant event in February, so don't miss out on that kind of thing going forward. We've got driver coaching. If you sign up to the Get Faster Discord server, again, link in the description of this video, that's where the driver coaching and general hangout all takes place, so really lovely community there. Go check out the Discord. And lastly, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the little bell icon so you get notified when all of the new videos go up. This has been a rubbish one. There's much better videos coming this year. Thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. See you on the next one. Love you. Bye.